This is Mrs. Fraser, and I'm going to be going over your surface area foldable with you today. So in your notebook, if you will make sure to set up your foldable as you see here. So lateral will be on the left and total on the right. So you'll fold those flaps over after you cut them out. And don't forget the little important piece that you see here about remembering that B means area of the base and P means perimeter of the base. And then I added the piece that H is height of the prism. You also might want 3 colors, blue, green, and yellow. We're going to use those today as we work through our surface area formula. Okay, we're going to start with our rectangular prism. And we're going to mark the really important pieces of that prism. But before we do that, it's really helpful for me if I draw what my rectangular prism would look like as a net. So if I unfold the middle section, the middle piece of my rectangular prism, and then I have my 2 bases. So now I can really visually look at what this would look like. Okay, so looking at my 2 bases, you can see they shaded in my 2 bases. I can actually go ahead and label my numbers, which really is helpful. And then I can see that there's this other like odd piece out here. That piece is made up of that part of my prism on my net. Okay, so I am going to mark my different important pieces. So let's start with our lateral surface area. So if I want to find my lateral surface area on my formula chart, it says take the perimeter of the base and multiply by my height. So let's think about what that means. Well, we know that to find my lateral surface area, I'm literally finding this middle section. So if I want to find the perimeter of the base, I want to find what goes around the space. So I'm literally finding this length right here because that is what would wrap around my base when I fold up my box. And then I also want to multiply by this piece right here so I can actually get the area of this middle rectangle. And that is actually the height of my prism. Okay, so we're going to put all of those pieces together. Now I can go ahead and fit in my 3, my height. I know that's what my 3 is. But I have to think a little bit about what my perimeter of my base is. I have to do a little bit of work for that. Because I only have the 3D image and not my net image. So I know that this piece is going to wrap around all 4 sides of this rectangle. And all 4 sides of my rectangle are 8, 2, and 8, and 2. So I like to actually write 2 plus 2 plus 8 plus 8 along the perimeter of my base. I understand that that whole piece is going to wrap around those 4 sides of my rectangle. So to find my perimeter, I'm going to have 2 plus 2 plus 8 plus 8. Okay, so let's simplify that a little bit more. 2 and 2 make 4. 8 and 8 make 16. And then I still have my height of 3. Okay, and we can even simplify that a little bit more. 16 and 4 make 20. And then I have 3, so I'm really just taking my perimeter of my base, which is 20, and I'm multiplying that by 3. So my surface area is just going to be 60. And I'm going to label this as feet squared. Okay, so this is my lateral surface area, but now we're going to move on and we're going to find our total surface area. Okay, so far what we have found is the perimeter of my base, and we've multiplied it by my height. But I need to find the total surface area, so now I need to add on 2 pieces. So I'm going to add on my 2 bases. So they've already shaded that base for me, so this is the base I'm going to use. So I'm adding on both of these bases to get my total surface area. So now if I look at my formula, I know I need to do perimeter of the base times height plus 2 times the area of the base. So I need my 2 bases now. Now we already did this first piece, so I'm just going to kind of write down what we've already done. We already know the perimeter of the base times the height. We've already found the middle section. That's what we did with our lateral surface area. We know that we did 2 plus 2 plus 8 plus 8. We know that we got 4 plus 16 when we did that. We know that gave us 20 for our perimeter. And we know that our height was 3. So we took 20 and multiplied by 3, and that gave us 60 for our perimeter. I'm sorry, 60 for our lateral surface. Okay, so now I need to add on 2 of my bases. So if I find the area of my base, if I want to add on these 2 areas, I know that I just need to find the area by multiplying 8 times 2. Okay, so again, we want to multiply 8 times 2 just to lay this out a little bit more for us, because that would represent the area of one of my bases. And we're multiplying 8 times 2 is 16. We're multiplying by 2 because there's 2 bases. So this area is actually 32 for both of my rectangles. So remember, we're looking at both of those rectangles. So both of those rectangles and my lateral surface area together, so my middle section, which was 60, 60 plus 32 is going to give me 92. Okay, let's look at our triangular prism now. So our triangular prism is going to be very similar. So let's go ahead and mark our 3D image with all of the pieces of my formula. So I'm looking at my B. I'm looking at my P, and then my H. Okay, so let's start with the area of our base. So they've already shaded in our bases for us, but we're just going to make it a little bit more visual by shading in my bases in blue. And then I want the perimeter of the space. So notice that this time I only have 3 sides to my base. So I'm only going to be adding 3 numbers for my perimeter. Okay, and that perimeter can be found in 2 places. So I'm going to mark that in 2 places. And then the height of my prism. So the height is represented by that piece that connects my two bases together. So 15. All right, so again, I'm going to draw our net. So if I unfold my triangular prism, I'll have a rectangular piece in the middle. And then I'll have two triangles. And I'm never very good at drawing triangular prism nets. I'll have two triangles on the outside. Okay, so to find our lateral surface area, we're finding our middle piece. So I know I need to take and multiply my length times my width, or my base times my height of that middle rectangle. And we know that this piece represents the perimeter of my base because it wraps around my triangle. And we know that this piece represents my height. So let's label what those pieces are with our numbers. So this is 15, represents the height. And then the perimeter of my base, well, if I mark my triangle has three numbers around it. And you don't have to get this exactly right, where what numbers are. It's kind of hard for me to see, but I know I have 10, 8, and 6. And it almost looks like that this triangular prism might be a right triangle. So we're actually going to make it a right triangle. We're going to have to. So let's go ahead and put a little box there so we can see that. And don't get worried that you don't know exactly where each of those numbers go. I can tell that the 10 really is touching along that middle section there. So I might go ahead and write 10 here. And then 6 and 8 are on the other side. All right, so to find my lateral surface area, I need to take the perimeter of the base times the height, the green times the yellow. Okay, green is represented by the perimeter of the base, which is 6 plus 10 plus 8 times my height, which is 15. Okay, so 6 plus 10 plus 8 is going to give me the perimeter of my base, and that is 24. And I'm going to multiply that by 15. Okay, I'm just going to rewrite that. I'm not sure what this extra line is for. So I'm taking 24 and I'm multiplying by 15 to find that lateral surface area, just the middle rectangle section. Okay, so 24 times 15. Okay, that gets us 360 inches squared. Okay, so now we have our lateral surface area, the middle section. So the only piece we need to add on is the area of my bases. Just adding on the two bases now. So if I look at my formula, it has my lateral surface area formula, PH, plus 2 times B. So we've already done this first part, so we're just going to rewrite that in. 6 plus 10 plus 8, and we multiplied by 15. We got 24 times 15 to find my lateral surface area. Okay, so now I need to find the area of my bases. Well, my bases are triangles. So if you remember correctly, to find the area of my base, I'm going to have to use my formula for my triangle. So area for a triangle is 1/2 of the base times the height. Okay, so looking at that, to find 1/2 of the base times the height, I'm going to actually take my triangle and look at the different pieces. I need to take 1/2. And since it's a right triangle, I need to make my base, and sometimes it's helpful to redraw it. This would need to be my 10 to be my longer side. My hypotenuse, and this would need to be my 8, 6 and 8. So I'm going to take 1/2 of 6 times 8. You can divide at any point. So if I want 1/2 of 6 times 8, I can actually go ahead and start multiplying those. Well, let's see, 6 times 8 is 48. So I want 1/2 of 48. Half of 48 is 24. So one triangle is 24, but we have two triangles, so we know we're going to multiply that by 2. So my two triangles are 48. And then remember my lateral surface area, my middle section was 360. So now we're just going to take all of that and add it together. So 360 plus 48 is 408 inches squared. Okay, going to our last figure, our cylinder. Cylinders are my favorite because I feel like the formulas are very straightforward. So my formula for our lateral surface area is 2 pi RH. So we're not really doing perimeter of the base times the height here. What we're actually doing, because we don't have perimeters of circles, so remember my perimeter of the base was green. We're actually taking their circumference of my circle. So let's go ahead and mark our circumference. We're going to multiply by my height. Okay, so we're still using yellow for my height. Okay, so we're doing the same process. It's just now we're dealing with circles, so we have different pieces we have to deal with there. So if I unroll my cylinder, we know I'll have a rectangle in the middle and I'll have two circles on the outside. So the circumference of my circle is what wraps around my circle, which is representative by this piece right here. That's what will wrap around my circle. Then I'm going to multiply by my height. So this will give me my lateral surface area. So we know from previous years that this piece right here, my circumference, is always 2 pi r. And then I have my height here, which is going to be 11. Okay, so plugging straight into my formula, I'm going to have 2, my circumference, 2 pi, and my radius is, well, let's see, my diameter is 6, so my radius must be 3, half of my diameter. So 2 pi times 3 times my height, which is 11. Okay, so to find that middle section, we're going to take that and we're going to multiply. And we want to use our pi key in our calculator, so make sure you're using your calculator. Okay, so in our calculator, if we type all in, we should get approximately, when we multiply, let's first just do 2 times 3 times 11. So 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 11 is 66, so I'm going to be doing 66 times pi. And 66 times pi is approximately 207.35 meters squared. Okay, so now we found that middle section. My lateral surface area, 2 pi RH. Again, we took 2 pi 3 to find my radius. I mean my circumference. And then we multiplied my circumference by my height of 11. We got 66 pi, or 207.35. So I'm going to keep it as 66 pi for now. Okay, so now we want our total surface area. So we know that's my middle section plus 2 of the bases. So in my cylinder formula, though, they actually tell me what that is. So I want 2 pi r squared. So I'm actually taking pi r squared, the area of my circle, and multiplying that by 2. But our formula just tells us straight out what that would be. So I want to do plus 2 times pi. My radius is 3 squared. Okay, so I like to save pi till the end, so 2 and 3 squared. So 2 times 3 squared. See, 3 squared is 9 times 2, the 18. So 18 pi. Well, 66 and 18 pi. I'm going to add 66 and 18. And now I have 84 pi. Now in my calculator, I can type in 84 times pi. And we get approximately 263.89. Let me change those colors. So this is representative of my total surface area, my lateral, and my 2 bases. Okay, so hopefully this video has helped you understand surface area a little bit more. Now I encourage you to go to something that can help you practice these nets a little more. So follow your teacher's instructions on the next steps of what you should practice after you've done this piece.